Hello, hey, welcome
Hey,
to the podcast. Today we have Melvin, who has just joined us for today's conversation. Melvin, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
hello. Hi everyone, I'm Melvin Seetoh. Right now, I consider myself a strategist that specializes in using technology, especially AI, to help businesses solve certain challenges in their organizations. For some time now, I've been working mostly on growth marketing and content marketing. I consider myself a bit of a creative soul. And I think most importantly, for you to get to know me a bit better, I'm more of an extrovert. I'm more of a big picture kind of person. I'm also a bit of a feeler, just a bit. And I'm a perceiver. So I don't jump to conclusions very quickly. I take some time to soak in all the information and make my decisions based on that. So yeah, I've had the great benefit of working with Will before. I really enjoyed my time working with him, and yeah, that's why I'm on the show today.
Awesome. So, Melvin, I just want to say this, right? One of the things that struck me as distinct about you and your personality is that since the very first few times I met you, it always seems like you're hacking around at something. Like it could be biohacking, it could be DNA testing,
Yeah.
or it could be simply like how to make the old camera phone a useful webcam for yourself, right?
Yeah.
How do you end up being this kind of like hacky person? What's the engine behind that?
Wow. I think it requires a certain character trait. Because I would deem it as a character trait because I like to look back at my past and see when did I start doing something like that. Because if I only started this kind of mindset, it probably means growth. If I started at a young age, it's probably a character trait. I think it's a character trait because I started hacking or being innovative or playing things in a very unique way ever since I can remember. One big example I had was when I was in primary school, we had centurions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Centurions, what is it
combine
called?
together.
Yeah, centurions. And then we had some other action figures like Brave Star, He-Man, etc., right? And you know how to get them to fight realistically. So, I mean, just fighting like that, where got fun, right? Just knocking them together. So I'll make them fight and I'll use a lighter to burn like scar marks, right? And
Wow.
then just show that they've been injured. And then when they go through some sort of repair phase, then I would try to heal it back with whatever I have lah. Usually it's a glue gun. Yeah, then I would glue gun and then try to make it flat and then try to color it again. Then, this guy is healed. Now he's better. So I've been doing that. And I think it's that kind of streak. I wouldn't say it's rebellious, but in a very negative way, it's rebellious. In a good way, it's finding a way out of the box, right? To play, even to play. And I think it's all from the viewpoint of keeping life interesting, keeping my childhood life interesting. And even now, it fuels my thirst for that creativity needed in life. So yeah, I think it's a character trait, but I truly believe it can be trained as well.
Okay. So I think you touched on it a little bit already, right? If I were to ask you to define what is growth, what would you say?
I truly believe that growth is not being where you are yesterday. If every day you were just to improve just by 0.1%, you think about the power of compounding, right? Just 0.1%, by the time you get to 365 days, you would have compounded 365 times.
Yeah.
And I think this has a great effect on where we would eventually end up. I just happened to have this conversation with a massage lady.
Oh, okay.
Strangely enough. And she was asking me why my mom, whom I sort of admire in this aspect, right, stays so active even when she's 71 years old. And I really think it all boils down to her need to try new experiences, to do new things every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
if
to
I were
me,
to,
that's growth.
okay. So if I were to build on some of the things that you're saying, it sounds like, would you say that growth and progress is the same thing, or do you think they're distinct?
I think, yes, there are parallels. Growth is something that leads you upwards. I think when there's no energy put into something, it just atrophies, right?
Mm,
If you're not training muscles, your muscles just, you end up with sarcopenia when you're 60,
yeah.
right? If you're not training your mind, you end up with dementia when you're 60. So in that sense, I think growth would definitely propel us towards greater progress.
Okay, okay.
Mm,
And the other theme that I picked up from some of the responses you're saying is there's this element of experimentation or
mm,
exploration that comes with growth.
mm.
What does that look like for you?
David Epstein, in his
Mm,
book Range, he speaks of the idea of a generalist versus a specialist, right?
yes,
So,
okay.
for example, that debate between Roger Federer and Nadal, who's the better tennis player?
Mm,
Apparently, Nadal was a specialist, and Roger Federer is a generalist. But to be really good at one thing, there are two ways to get there, right? One is you just maximize whatever you have been learning, you just hone in on it, and then you just max on it all the way.
yeah.
But on the other hand, there are a lot of ways for a person to try different things until he discovers that, hey, I have this general sense of expertise or aptitude in a certain realm that, because Roger Federer is not just a great tennis player, he plays football well, he plays golf well, he does a lot of things at a certain level higher than many people.
Okay,
So if we don't experiment, if we don't get out of our comfort zones, we'll never find out what we are truly good at.
okay.
And
Do you think that it matters whether or not you're a specialist or generalist in order to grow? Or actually both can grow?
no, I truly believe that in the same vein, both can grow. As
Mm,
long as you're happy with where you're growing towards, then no matter what, there is always something that you enjoy about that growth.
mm,
Let's say you asked me to learn a musical instrument today, for example. Yeah, sure, I can get started on it. I'll probably learn the theory principles really well, but my psychomotor on my left hand doesn't speak to my right hand. I
okay,
can't coordinate for nuts, right? So I find it difficult to grow in that aspect. And one day, sooner or later, I'll get frustrated and just, that's not something for me, right? So I don't want to avoid that, but I would love to learn something like that. I watch a lot of videos on music theory, by the way. I'm a eclectic content kind of person. I like to watch even something as obscure as movie theory, for example, script writing
mm,
theory. Because I think knowing these concepts help me to learn about the world a bit more and to see where I should put a bit more energy towards the following day.
okay, okay. That's interesting.
Because
If,
at the end of the
yeah,
day, if we don't experiment enough, we tend to stay comfortable,
mm,
right? A big part of my life is my fitness, right? As you know.
yes,
And the way your body works when you do a certain workout. So let's say you want to train your biceps, for example, right? If you keep doing the same thing, oh, I'm just going to curl my biceps this way for the next 10 years, it will grow, sure, but it won't grow in the most optimal way. You have to challenge it in other ways. You have to strengthen the muscles around it. You have to make sure that you are engaging not just the short head of the bicep, you're also engaging the long head of the bicep. So the concepts are similar,
mm,
and it remains an analogy for now, but I think it is highly applicable to everything in life.
okay.
Hmm.
If I were to ask you to perhaps share what was a truly challenging period of growth for you in your personal
Hmm.
journey, what
Hmm.
would you say that, what would that experience be?
Um. Okay. I don't believe in low points, But if I had to choose one, which I would maybe define as a growing point, it was back in 2010. I can clearly say that was the point where I was forced to grow a lot more. So it was a time where I just got into a relationship with my then girlfriend. Because of that relationship, I was convinced to move out of a marketing job to join the real estate sales industry. So I was a
Right.
property agent for 4 months. And
I
as you
see.
know, the property agent industry is a largely self-funded kind of industry, right? And being in my 20s then, I didn't have any financial planning sense. So I went in there with nearly zero. I only had like $1,000 in my bank account when I first joined the industry. And as you know, the moment you put pen to paper in that industry, you have to pay money really. So even though it's not as high as what they pay right now, but I still had to pay money. I had to invest in finding listings. I still had to invest in some tools like back in the day there was something called Proc Tools where you get a list of home caveat lodge, the homeowners' names and numbers, and then you have to start calling them. And yeah, I had to do that. So expenses were high. My day-to-day living still has to take place. I just got into a relationship where it wasn't like the most, I would say, the most settled in relationship. Yeah, we decided to go into it together, but somehow I was doing all the work. About a month in, maybe 2 months in, I was broke. I was quarreling with my girlfriend quite a bit. But being one of my first few relationships, I didn't see the need to get out of it. So I didn't really know how to handle relationships back then. And yeah, life wasn't that fantastic lah. My health wasn't the best because it was exacerbated by a few years of heavy drinking, smoking, and yeah, I was at a coffee shop with my friend, and I asked him, "Hey, wow, this is my situation. What can I do about it?" They said, "Okay, lor, come to church with me." Then I'm like, okay, dude, you know, I self-proclaimed myself as a Satanist, okay? Satanist, I wouldn't even say just a non-believer. I proclaim myself as a Satanist. Because if you remember in 2010, we already had Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And back then, we already had Google. So I searched for what's the definition of only believing in myself. I believed back then that I could influence everything. Everything that happened around me is a result of what I do, what I think, and what I do to improve that situation if I didn't like it. So that is the definition of being a Satanist. So I was very proud of it. In fact, I even wore an inverted cross around my neck. Can you believe it? Right. And I think at that point in time, something just clicked. I just went. And, you know, the strangest thing is I didn't receive that spiritual connection immediately, but I received a message to think about how am I going to grow out of this situation.
Okay.
Right. I think a lot of it is really in the mindset. And one of the biggest mindset shifts that I had in terms of that low point to the growing point was, hey, the world doesn't just revolve around me, but the world is perhaps even not as controllable as a lot of people think. Right? At that point in time, I started to put my faith in higher power. I wouldn't say things got better immediately. From there, I kept to the plan, put in a bit more effort in advertising, sold a few units, found a full-time job because the money situation wasn't getting any better. I sort of like started quarreling with my then girlfriend a bit less. I think progressively I started to adopt this mindset of anything that can happen, if it happens to me, is probably for my good.
Okay, I want to go back a little to connect the dots because
Mm.
it sounded like when your friend invited you to church, it felt
Mm.
like that was a significant moment for you.
Yeah, it was a huge
And
moment.
going to church, and it didn't like you show up at church, suddenly all your problems are solved, here's $100,000.
No,
And suddenly you don't feel like drinking alcohol anymore, right?
yeah, I wish.
That yeah, so
Yeah.
so it's not like immediately you go to church, bam, problems all solved, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, there was a shift.
Yeah.
What do you think was the crux of that shift for you?
So I mentioned one of them, which is the mindset shift of not thinking that I am the only person who can affect it.
Yeah, you're not the absolute power, right?
Yeah, I'm not the absolute power. Because if you think about the greater scale of the universe, if you look at the bigger scale of things, you're but a speck in time and but a speck in the total amount of matter in this world,
Mm,
right? Even if you believed that aliens came and created all of us, right? It means there are things further out there and more intelligent beings than us that can affect the way the world functions.
yeah.
So I believe that insignificance, the understanding of insignificance, is something so instrumental in creating that idea that if I were to exist even for just the maximum allowable lifespan, theoretical lifespan of 120 years old, if I were
Mm-hmm.
to live for 120 years old, you are just a mere an isle of time, right?
Yeah.
So I think that bit there really made a difference. One of the main objections, if you would say, for accepting religion for me at that point in time is I didn't like the idea of religion because I didn't like religiosity.
Okay, what is religiosity?
What I mean by that is a lot of what I understood about religion is the do good get good kind of religion,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Do good, get good. Yeah.
Make an offering and hence a God will bless me.
Yeah.
Right? But when I went to a church, it's not about the religion, but it's about the relationship.
Mm.
Right? So I understood the importance of understanding your relationship with someone. And that sort of like defines success in the world as well. And in your willingness to grow towards something. I know it's a bit abstract for now. Let's talk about your relationship with yourself, right? So I think a lot of the issues being faced by especially the youth these is their relationship with their own self-worth, right?
Okay.
And so I think in a way we matter, all these needs to be considered into understanding our role as human beings in our interconnectedness with other people.
Okay.
Once we know that, we sort of like have I would say even a compass,
Mm.
right? Who are we doing this for? It sort of like ties towards our purpose, right? I know
Yeah.
there are a lot of gurus and a lot of people who really believe that, finding your purpose is the most important thing, right? But understanding ourselves and the people around us is so instrumental in understanding our purpose, in my point of view. The best purposes are to build the best kind of life for the people I love, for my wife, my children, my partner, my parents. I want to inspire my children to be future thinkers. A purpose like that is so important in finding out that purpose before we can figure out how to get there.
Because this ties back to the previous conversation I had with Henry.
Mm,
It sounds like what you're saying is that having the self-awareness to
mhm,
know your own purpose, to know your own kind of orientation and direction,
mhm,
while keeping in mind the scale of the world and how minute we are is some of the essential building blocks towards this topic of growth or progress.
Yeah. I think you summarized that very well. I think we can wrap up really. No, it's true because I think a lot of people, when we talk about what's your purpose in life, a lot of people can't define it. With children, it becomes easier, right? Because they have a
Okay.
legacy to work towards. But if you were to speak with an average youth these days, I would say that a lot of them, they haven't found their purpose.
Okay.
Only understanding your purpose can you define what that vision of that final outcome looks like. For me, I want to live to 120 so that I can stay, I can be there for the people I love. Right? I think with that in mind, it ties to a lot of things really. Firstly, I have to be healthy. Secondly, I have to be financially free. No point being healthy when I'm broke and then I have to go and beg on the streets, right?
Yeah.
And thirdly, I need to stay relevant enough for me to stay alive. But I like right now the older generation people who aren't savvy to using, for example, SingPass, right? They will find it very difficult to navigate today's world. And I really don't want to be like that. So with that in mind, I already created 3 guidelines for me to live my life towards. Right? So I really encourage everyone to sort of like really find their purpose.
Okay.
I wish more people could give a good answer to that. So,
Would you say that a person's purpose is stable and unchanging? Or would you say that it's something that we choose or we create for ourselves over different seasons?
I think their purpose would be unchanging. Their final outcome is unchanging. But how we get there, we have so many options how to get there, right? Financial freedom, there are so many ways, right? A lot of people make their money through property, a lot make it through business, a lot of people make it through even just plain normal employment and astute investment decisions. So I think all these kinds of things should be driven by what makes you happy in the future.
So if it just so happened that the purpose that you seem to be orienting yourself around is oriented around the people that you love, right? Would you say that then in a situation where it so happens that all the people that you love are no longer around, let's say you are 100 years old, everybody you love has already gone to
Passed
heaven.
on, moved on. Yeah.
Would you say then, it feels like I have no purpose?
Oh, if I were the only person on earth, yeah. If I had one partner who moved on earlier than me, and yes, that would mean losing a big part of what defines my purpose, right? But I would always have people I love in my life, although in different ways. It might not be romantic love. It might be friendships. It might be the love for a community with people in there that matter to me, right? It might be the people who are connected to the people I love.
Okay.
I think that's why there's a high importance in connections with people. Yeah.
Okay. If I asked you a straight question,
Sure.
is purpose received or is purpose created by self? What would you say? Is it received from a higher power or is it self-created?
Well, if you ask me, I will always say that for me, my purpose was received.
Okay.
Without understanding that initial revelation, I wouldn't have had such a defined purpose.
Okay.
Right. But I think it is that first step in finding your purpose could be achieved through many ways. One is like, if you have a revelation, but how do many people go out and have an epiphany, right? That's not replicable. But if there's experimentation, I think that will be something that will create love. It will create opportunities for you to find out what you are truly passionate about, whom you're truly passionate about, and meet more people and understand what are the things that are worth working for. Yeah.
Okay. So sharing. Oh, so it sounds like so far we've been covering some of the key factors that accelerate growth or promote growth. Like, for example, experimentation, having a purpose, having a vision. If I were to ask you as you reflect back on your life for the periods in your life where you stagnated, there was no progress or there was no growth, what would you say are some of the key factors that impede growth?
I think the most stagnant point in my life was actually in secondary school, where I wasn't learning anything new. Yes, I was learning
Okay.
new subjects. I was receiving an education. But if you ask me if I was learning, no, I think I learned more about physics and most sciences after secondary school.
I see.
Yeah. So I think school was the part where I stagnated the most.
Why do you think that is the case?
I mean, it's not stagnation. It's I didn't enjoy the things that I was learning. Because if you think about the traditional education system in Singapore, it's all about studying to take an exam. Even if you learned a lot during your education, the keyword being learned, but you didn't study for the exam, you didn't know what questions were going to come out, you didn't prepare the questions in advance, and you flunked the exams, you'll be deemed as a failure. And people outside who don't know anything about you would think that, hey, this guy is not very smart. It's not the sharpest tool in the shed, right? But yeah, it's not about learning. Unfortunately, that's the case. So I mean, I don't have that vision of upheaving the entire education system in Singapore. But yes, that part that I wouldn't call it a stagnation either, because the main function of schools to me is really to understand the rules and regulations of life, lah. Right.
Okay.
So yeah, I was probably learning, if not consciously, about how the world works at that point in time. At that tender age, everyone is lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if given that you say that secondary school sounds like the period of your greatest stagnation, where you impeded from really enjoying and really progressing in the direction that you wanted, right? If, let's say I gave you a time machine, here's the keys to the time machine, and you could go back in time and you could do something for that version of you in the past, right? Whether you could tell him something or you could change his circumstance in one way or the other, what would you do?
I probably would tell him immediately to stop playing so many computer games, but instead learn to create your own computer games.
Okay.
Right? I think at that point in time, we were mostly occupied with fun. It was always like fun is the antithesis to studying as a student.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we need to understand, or at least me in the past, to understand that, hey, actually learning things can be just as fun. When I was in primary school, I had access to an encyclopedia. My parents bought an encyclopedia set. You know how much they cost at that point in time, right? And then, so I read it a lot. because I was young enough to enjoy that physical media of nothing to do at home. There's no entertainment. There's no video games, right? So all I did was just take a random issue and start reading. So I really like learning already from a young age, but it wasn't rewarded. You see,
Okay.
maybe until now, maybe my eclectic understanding of many things that made it worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like the thing that needed to be done wasn't giving you the dopamine hit because
Mm.
there's no reward. So the motivation is very low. So like
You're right.
you're supposed to read science textbook, right?
Yeah.
Then but you get no dopamine hit from it, right? But you play video game, what immediately
No
dopamine
kick.
hit, right?
Then exactly.
Right. And so when you are not able to pair the thing that needs to be done with the dopamine, then you really struggle to
Yeah.
move forward, lah,
Yeah,
right?
you're right in a way. That dopamine rush can be created by a jackpot, right? The
Mm,
casino effect where you're not sure of the outcome. Just that anticipation of the potential reward gives you a real dopamine hit as well.
yeah.
But I think in the real world, when your parents reward you for learning something new today, I think that would create that kind of dopamine hit as well. So yes, I think being able to create certain habits in my younger self would lead to what more people would deem as a successful outcome.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. We're going to try one more question, right?
sure.
Given all that we've spoken about, right?
Yeah.
If I challenged you to apply it into your life
Mm.
today,
Mhm.
what would it look like?
I think it starts from being open-minded. Once you're open-minded, I highly encourage everyone to start consuming media, to start learning about other people's mindsets and learning about other approaches. But if not for knowing about this back in 2022, 23, I don't think I would be able to work on the things that I have been working on. It starts from really knowing, being open-minded, and consuming enough media, knowing about it. And once you know about something, I think a huge part is doing it for yourself, or at least understanding how you best absorb things, how to make it practical, how to make it applicable in your lives. How can I make my work back then easier? So I experimented with ChatGPT. I experimented with stable diffusion image generation as well. And yeah, I had to experiment with whatever resources I had back then, and make the most of your resources, right? I think experiment with what you have. If we don't have a car, we can start with a skateboard. It's still a base with four wheels. We can go with it first. It still takes us faster than our feet. So I think get started on experimentation and start doing it and work based on feedback. If
Mm,
someone tells you that, hey, your webcam quality is just too horrible, that's just an opinion. If 10 people tell you that, hey, it's a trend. If
yeah,
200 people tell you that, yeah, it's time for a change. If we don't know what we are doing something for, we'll end up directionless and not doing it for the right reasons.
awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, on this topic, is there anything else that you feel like we didn't touch on or anything else that you want to say?
I think I'll just finish with this. For anyone that's watching and has the excuse, the very common excuse of, I don't have enough time for this, I don't have enough energy for this, I don't have enough knowledge on this. I think maybe 30 years ago, it's a valid excuse. But today, in 2025, it's not an excuse anymore. If you have no time, there's always ways to create time. So I believe you can always create extra time through optimization of things around you. You don't have enough time. How about 15 minutes on the commute? If you don't have enough energy, there are ways to improve your energy levels. Right? First thing is to improve your fitness levels. If you don't have enough knowledge, now that is the thing that irks me the most. You know how to find out or not, right? So yeah, we can always find out. If you used ChatGPT and they churn out hallucinated rubbish, learn how to prompt. If you can get the result but you don't know how to verify, I guess you can always learn how to verify with cross-referencing somewhere, right? So knowledge is not an excuse, time is not an excuse, energy is definitely not an excuse. If someone is using any of these three excuses to not grow and to stay in their comfort zones, I really encourage them to make the most of their lives and understand their purpose first.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Melvin.
You're welcome. It was really my pleasure. Yeah.
When I was thinking about what prevents someone from growing, I was thinking that the lack of rest actually prevents growth. If you operate from a place of fear, you're always in fight, flight, or freeze.
Yep.
Sympathetic nervous system.
Yep.
Always operating at the edge of burnout. You're actually not in a good place to grow.
Yep.
Right. So in that kind of situation, right, actually, if you're thinking about growth, right, the part that is a bit unintuitive is that actually you need to figure out how to rest first.
All right. You know, the strange thing is I only found out about that concept after I attended church as well. You know that I think not just rest, but I think there needs to be abundance. If there's no abundance, there is that mindset of lack. Without the mindset of abundance, you wouldn't have that vision of what lies ahead of you is certainly going to be better, it's going to be faster, it's going to be stronger.
Yeah.
Right? If you are always engaged with that fight, flight, or freeze mode, that sympathetic system, like what you mentioned, because if you're not rested, if you're not in a relaxed state, if you don't have a mindset of everything is for your good, everything is going to turn out well, I think it's very difficult for people to realize that there are opportunities out there.
Yeah. And
You're
as
right.
you say, the other thing I want to add in is the word safety, right? If you don't feel safe, you cannot experiment, you cannot explore.
Yeah.
Right. It's the abundance mindset that allows you to feel like, you know what, even if I fail, it's going to be okay.
You're right. I think with that, in that safety zone, you can really experiment outside of your usual boundaries, right? A lot of people would say that, hey, my work is in compliance, I can't deviate too much. Then find that safety zone outside of your work, right? I think you have to find your third space where you can experiment and do something outside, and grow in ways that may even surprise yourself, right?
So for anyone listening in, you feel like all the domains of your life, you're not able to have that safe space. Let's say at work, your boss don't believe in you, your colleagues all don't believe in you, at home, your family don't believe in you, and you feel like you're trapped on all fronts, right? Do consider getting professional help. Like, for example, you could get a therapist, And a
Oh,
therapist is actually trained to create a certain safe space for you and guide you through and give you that kind of ability to hash out issues, to come to
yes,
at least some kind of resolution and allow you to navigate forward. Another
yes,
option, which is also what I do, is coaching,
yep,
right? Where in a coaching
absolutely.
relationship, we can create some space and you can use that safety to navigate issues, to sort things out and figure out a path forward. Yeah.
I guess that's it. I'm always open to have a chat with anyone who is facing a tech challenge. And even though I solve business challenges, I also like to solve personal challenges. So hit me up. My personal tech stack is also not so bad, man. So yes, let's talk about that. Let's just hang out, right? You can always search for my website. I'm on my website is melvinseetoh.com. Just hit me up over there. Socials are down there.
Yeah, so all the socials and all the contact information, we'll put it in the description. Yeah,
Yes,
so just check out the description and you should be ready to go to contact Melvin
sure thing.
for any tech challenges or anything
Yes.
that you want to converse with him on. And he's a fantastic guy, really. That's why
Thank
we're
you.
having this
Thank you.
Conversation.
Yes.
So thank you for listening to
Thanks,
the
Bill.
audience. We're gonna wrap up here. See you guys. Bye bye.